In this video, we're looking at semi-opaque watercolors. I've got 3 essential tips for you. We're going to be looking at what they are, which colors are actually semi-opaques, and the best way to use them. So what are semi-opaque colors? Now, if you look at opaque watercolors, which are gouache, which is technically a separate medium, but still a type of watercolor, and then you've got watercolors themselves, which are considered to be transparent. Just like acrylics, not all of them are completely opaque or completely transparent. They're usually on a scale, so you do get transparent watercolors. They're also called staining watercolors. And then you get watercolors that have a little bit more coverage. They're not quite as transparent. Now, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with these. They can be very effective when used in a painting. But it's really important to understand the properties of your paints. Now, some people call themselves purists and they don't want to use any semi-opaque colors. They don't even want to use any granulating colors. They just want to use staining colors, but they're actually leaving a lot of options off of the table by doing that. Now, these people would sometimes refer to themselves as purists. In other words, using watercolor transparently is the original way of using it. It's the only way it should be used. But actually, this is absolute nonsense, because if you look at the earliest watercolorists, people like Turner, they were using body color, and they were certainly using a lot of opacity in their original watercolors. So you can choose to use watercolors certainly as a completely transparent medium, but don't be kidding yourself that this is the purest or the most original way of using them, because it's simply not true. So let me show you now a simple trick for telling an opaque watercolor from a transparent watercolor. So I've got 2 colors here. They're both by Winsor & Newton. I've got a transparent yellow and I've got a Naples yellow. Now, this is Naples yellow deep, but Naples yellow is known for being a colour that's quite opaque. What I've done here is I've drawn a line on my paper in permanent ink, and you can use this actually if you're making colour swatches. One of the things that you can do is to put a line on your paper, and actually, as well as testing the colour, you can test the opacity. The manufacturers will also give you sometimes a rating of how opaque a pigment is. If it's not on the tube, it may be on the website. So let's start by swatching the transparent colour, and I'll put it across the top here. And what you'll notice with a transparent colour is that once it dries, it'll have made very little difference to that black line. Let's now look at this Naples yellow, which is known for being a semi-opaque colour. Now, of course, I've put it on quite thickly there, and it's covering the line completely, but we can water it down like so. But you see, it's still somewhat covering up the black line. So if you're unsure which of your colours, and we'll go through the colours that are typically semi-opaques later on in this video, but if you're unsure how to tell how transparent your watercolours are, try drawing a black line. It's good to do it for all of them, because if you just do it for one colour, you don't really have anything to compare to. And I'll be showing you later in the video the best way of using your semi-opaques. So which colours tend to be more opaque? Now, the opaque colours are the exact opposite to transparent, clear staining colours, so they won't include things like quinacridone and phthalocyanine, typically called phthalo colours. These are very strong, transparent colours. Often, if a tube of paint has multiple pigments, in other words, a mixed pigment paint, then it can tend towards opacity, but that's not an exact rule. For instance, Daniel Smith's green gold is made only from transparent pigments, and so therefore the finished colour, even though there are several pigments in it, is also transparent. You'll find most of the opaque colours within the earth colours. There are lots in the yellows. Anything with cadmium in is going to be somewhat opaque, although not as opaque perhaps as that Naples yellow that I showed you. Many reds and purples are very transparent, but here's an example of one that isn't, and this is a red oxide. So red oxide is a pigment that covers several names, so you may know it as Venetian red, you may know it as English red, you may know it as red oxide, and the oxides tend to be quite granular and somewhat opaque. It's a misunderstanding to believe that a single pigment number contains only one colour. This red oxide pigment actually comes in many, many variations, and they're all somewhat opaque, as are most of the earth colours. Here we have another colour which tends towards opacity. This is a potter's colour, a potter's pink. You do get other potter's colours, and they also tend to be rather chalky and rather opaque. Whilst not being chalky exactly, any colour with strong granulation, such as ultramarine or cerulean, is certainly going to have a degree of opacity just because of all the little bits in it stopping you seeing the paper glowing through clearly. Now, I don't want you to get the impression when watching this video that there's anything wrong with semi-opaque colours. Next, we're going to look at how to use them effectively. If you are enjoying this video, can I ask you to do me a quick favour? Can you please click that like button, that thumbs up button? If you like, share, subscribe, or leave me a comment here on YouTube, all of these things are free. It will help my channel to grow and I can teach more people like you how to paint and draw. So you're looking now at a close-up of a painting that I did recently. It was rather a flight of fantasy. It's not meant to be completely realistic, but you can see that I have a selection of types of paint here. I have some transparent pink in here, but I also have some heavily granulating colours and I have some semi-opaque colours. Now, if you look at this area of green at the base here, and I've got other areas of green within this painting, I wanted a really flat colour here. I wanted it to be completely opaque. If I hadn't been working away from home, I probably would have used some gouache. But as it was, I got this opaque green and I layered. Now this green is a mixed pigment green and it has some cadmium in, and that's what's giving it that slightly more solid feel. I've also layered on these stems here. I've layered over the top with cadmium yellows, and this has enabled the stem to look much more solid. So anywhere that you want a really flat opaque background, anything that you want to look a little bit more solid and a bit less transparent, it's a great idea to use a semi-opaque colour. I used one for the raindrops here, although this is actually a shimmer colour and it's the shimmer that was making this look more opaque. The semi-opaques are great for splattering as well. If you're splattering a beach and you're splattering with that Naples yellow and it goes on top of a dark rock, even though watercolours are transparent medium, you're actually going to find that you get a bit of opacity there. So for some extent, you can paint a little bit of light on top of dark, which isn't generally possible with watercolours. You can also use that semi-opaque paint as a sort of highlight area. I've got this colour here, which is an old SAA colour. It's a primrose yellow. It's actually nickel titanate, which is a very pale, very opaque yellow. And I've sometimes used a colour like this very effectively, just way off in the distance, to have a tiny sliver of something like a field of wheat or yellow grasses. And it can really draw the attention of the eye into the painting. Now what you don't want to do with semi-opaques is mix them into everything. They should be used as a contrast with your more transparent colours to help them show up and to help them glow. Thank you so much for watching this 3 essential tips video. Before you leave this video, don't forget to have a look in the video description. I've got lots of free stuff down there for you. I've got free downloadable PDFs with art tips on. I've even got a free watercolour painting mini course that you can take. Don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this one, and you can watch another one of my videos right now.